Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking about if Michael Jordan would be greater in today's era, the modern era. But first, before we get into that, let's welcome the panel here. We have Hoop God 23 in his Army shirt right here. How are you doing today, sir?
Ah man, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. How you guys doing today?
I forgot to say Happy Father's Day because I don't even think it's a real holiday, but
Oh,
that's besides the point.
it should be every day, so I'm with you there.
And we have AOH here. How are you today, sir?
What's up, gentlemen? Happy Father's Day.
Yep, and happy Father's Day to everyone as well. But yeah, first things first, Hoop God. Do you think that Michael Jordan would be a better offensive player in today's NBA?
So, um, just from my perspective, yes. But however, I don't want to just look at it from my lens. So I'll deduce these factors. So we're taking Michael Jordan in this era with no hand checking. Okay, we're gonna put Michael Jordan in this era with impeccable spacing because he didn't really have a lot of spacing in the 90s. Then we're also going to put him in an era where you don't have the power forward and the center camping out in the lane when you drive the basketball to the rim. So with those three factors right there, I think he would be a significantly better offensive player because now you don't have anybody impeding his progress. You don't. He's afforded more spacing, meaning when he is going up for a shot, he's not being contested because in the 90s he was being contested and was still shooting what 49, 50% from the field, which is amazing. In this era where you really don't even have guys committing to the defensive side, I mean, he's just going to have a field day out there. And then not to mention, there's not a power forward in the center waiting to knock you on your backside when you drive the lane. So yeah, when they ask that question, and I see it on these other shows, they don't go into depth. They'll just make a blanket statement. Oh yeah, Michael Jordan averaged 50, and I'm like, yeah, but can you explain why? I mean, when they just say that, it's like, I mean, it's too easy to rebuttal and say, well, no, he won't because this, that, and the fourth. But I'm like, can y'all go into detail? Why would he average 50 points per game or 45 or whatever the case may be? But I'm looking at Michael Jordan's best season, which was what 87, 88, when he was averaging 37 points per game with those defensive rules at play versus today. Yeah, much more offensive player, even better efficiency and a higher scoring rate. Granted on those nights that he gets hot from the field. So to sum it up, he's by far going to be a better offensive player.
What do you have to say about it, AOH?
You know what Hoop God pointed out is undeniable. These things are obvious. So I'm going to try and make it interesting and look at the word better. His numbers would be better, for record books, for people that buy into LeBron being a GOAT for his longevity stats, then maybe in that case it would be impressive. But it would not have been as enjoyable of a game to watch. And I almost wonder if that would have become a problem for Michael Jordan's personality. I'll explain. So, as Hoop God already mentioned, he was successful driving a lane during a time when the lane was clogged and people were allowed to touch you up. He was successful driving a lane in an era of the big men, of shot blockers, people who weren't afraid to get posterized. If you could be successful then driving the lane, then obviously, today's lane looks like someone might as well be signaling an airplane to land in there. It's so open. So let's look at his perimeter game. His fadeaway turnaround jump shot, any of his mid ranges, his faking, his hang time in the air with the mid range. He has that in his arsenal. But let's look at the 3-point game because that's something that has changed significantly. He has gone on record explaining why he didn't really like the 3-point shot. And I like what he said about it because I agree. it kind of takes away from what I thought was great about basketball. But you watch Michael Jordan over his career, and in the off season, he would work on things and he'd come back with a new weapon. He didn't just rely on one thing throughout his career. So, with that in mind, I think it'd be ridiculous to say that Michael Jordan wouldn't develop a 3-point shot if that's what the game demanded. If the other team is going to chuck up 60 pointers a night, and eventually that adds up to just too many offensive points to overcome, you might be like, okay, well, I guess if that's the way that we have to play it. But look at the number of blowouts that we have in today's game. It can't all be about the 3-point shot, but a lot of it is, hey, if one team's hitting their 3-pointers and they're on fire, all the difference in the game. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean that the other team isn't necessarily a good opponent. Their 3-pointers just weren't dropping that night. So you have two good or evenly matched teams blowing each other out back and forth. That's not good. You don't want to see that type of basketball. It was on that night. Now, when you made the game of basketball, about the chess moving down closer to the rim and the ball movement, then you're not going to have those sorts of blowouts if both of the teams are evenly matched. So I think Michael would have gotten bored sooner. I think he might have retired sooner. If in fact you believe the personality type that is portrayed of Michael Jordan as this competitor, and even the reason that he gave for retiring the first time, saying basically there's not much challenge left for me, imagine how much sooner he would have gotten bored playing in today's type of game.
No, that's a great point. And like you said, I agree. Basketball is just not basketball anymore. It's a 3-point contest where if somebody's hot, they're hot. And, and when they're scoring they're in the paint, it's because it's just a wide open drive for the most part. Like Hoop God was saying, there's nobody really in the paint that's playing defense, regularly speaking. They just any sort of big man defense is usually on the outside for pick and roll coverage, or something of the like, some sort of switch, maybe on an off ball screen. And there's not a lot of defense down there. So to your point, the game is a lot less physical. Michael dominated with creating space off of people, even with the hand check. And this is, I'm not going to say this would be the case, but he had that, patented. Oh wow, the camera just like went all over the place. Follow me, camera. Oh, my stuff's going all crazy over here. Anyway, he would roll off of the guys with the hand checks, and he'd be able to make all of this sort of space. I don't know if thinking about it, I don't know if he'd be able to do that, but that's just one of the things that I'm thinking of in regards to his offense. If that would have changed or not, I'm sure he would still be able to do absolutely fine with or without that. But just as a more technicality, that's something I was thinking about that he may not be able to do. But that's just a sidebar. But yeah, I don't even know if he'd want to play like AOH is saying, because it's boring. It's boring to the viewer, let alone the player. Like I get bored playing. I'll smoke these kids in the gym, and it's boring because they're so predictable. They just take these 3-point shots, they miss half of them, and I'll beat them taking mid-range jumpers. I don't even go in and use my body because I'm a larger person. I'll smoke them just taking jump shots, but they rely so much on this 3-point shot that I don't even defend. I can only imagine what it's like in the pros having to do that 82 times a year, or if you play that much, which they don't, but that's besides the point. I can only imagine how I would feel just playing defense on that. And if I was told that I have to sit around and virtually just shoot 3-point shots, that would kill me, man. That's not something that I would find entertaining. It's hard I play basketball to get a sweat at this point. I don't even play that hard because I'm older. I'm not trying to get hurt. So if these kids put any sort of physicality on me, I just kind of I won't fight him. But yeah. Do you think that Michael Jordan would be better on defense?
Yeah, see, that's the touchiness right there. So going back to what I said earlier, Michael Jordan still growing up with the same, big brother who would consistently beat him until he was able to, ultimately defeat him, which drove that competitive nature. And then Michael Jordan going to North Carolina under the same circumstances, wanting to be the best, challenging whomever it may be, like James Worthy articulated. He was the best player for like the first 2 weeks. So if I'm going to take all those factors into play, I do believe he still would be a great defender. Now, as far as the competitive drive, I think Michael Jordan would have had to seek out a rival to take him over the top. Because we saw in The Last Dance how, he would just make up things in his mind, to give him an edge. Well, looking at the climate of the game today, right, we only see maybe a couple of guys with that type of mentality, outside of the, the guy that wants to be buddy-buddy with everybody and initiate this hug fest, to quote Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, I think Michael Jordan, he would seek out, the rivals like Anthony Edwards or Jamal Murray or Ja Morant, just those guys that he knows is going to bring out the best in him, start, a little bit of chatter and then, this, that, and the fourth, like, yeah, you can't do this and I'm going to shut you down. So I do believe he'd still be a great defender. However, it's just, the climate that he's in. That's the only thing that I would kind of not be able to definitively say, yes, he would be this type of defender that he was from the 90s. Because if you look at it, just about everybody played like that back then. I mean, ultimately, the bad boy Pistons, they were the pinnacle of, having that rough, tough dog mentality. I mean, granted, some of those guys were dirty, but I appreciated it because it's like you gotta have that level of adversity to take you over the top. So when you meet another team like the Knicks, you have a resource to go back to. Okay, hey guys, this is how Detroit played us. This is how we're going to adjust to what they're doing and take them down. The 98 Pacers, now, they weren't really playing with those dirty tactics, but they were physical. People go back and watch that series. That's why it went 7 games. Not to mention Mark Jackson being the point guard for both teams that took them 7 games, but they were very physical, And I think that's what brings out the best in a competitor. It's like somebody trying to push you to the brink. And it's like, no, I'm not. You can knock me down. I'm getting right back up. I'm coming right back at you. I don't really see any team doing that today, if that makes sense. So it's like, would we see the best version of Jordan on defense? Probably not, because, we don't have those hard-nosed guys that's going to push him to that level. It's like he would have to try to manufacture something in his mind, to get him going. Like maybe look at a tweet from a dude with a burner account that got 5 followers. Hey, Michael Jordan, you can't guard Ja Morant. He literally had to go to those measures to be like, say what? Okay, well, let me go out here and strap this guy down. So to sum it up, I think he'd still be a really good defender, but we probably wouldn't see that level of defensive intensity that we saw from the 90s. Granted, it's not the same climate that we're in, unfortunately.
What do you got to say, OH?
I was going to ask both of you guys. It's too bad that the panel is small this morning. I wanted to ask you guys if you've ever yelled at teammates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I've been yelled at too, just to clarify. Yes, I've done the yelling and I've been yelled at.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, I remember the last dude I yelled at. I wasn't trying to be mean, but he was huge. And he was letting people take the ball from him underneath. And I was like, dude, you're a fucking giant. That's your ball. Hold on to the fucking ball. And it's criticism, but sometimes you need somebody to wake you up and be like, come on, let's see the best that you have to offer here. And, these weak ass LeBron fan people will be like, oh, MJ was an asshole. I'm like, he was a competitive teammate. I'm like, if you can't handle being yelled at for the sake of winning, then you don't belong in the sport in the first place. And anyway, what I'm getting at is how would MJ even want to be in this league with these personalities now, where they got to take to Twitter if a teammate says something that they don't like during a practice? And I was just seeing some of the clips of LeBron James shoulder bumping his past coaches. The amount of disrespect that exists and is allowed to happen in the NBA right now, it's hard for me to imagine someone with MJ's personality lasting.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and for me, I joke a little bit with this, but at a time, whenever I would talk to my peers or subordinates or whatever uh, in my job, I don't know if you know who Dan Pena is. He's he calls himself the $1 trillion man. He's like this financial coach, and his slogan instead of Nike's "Just Do It" is "Just effing do it." But if you don't know who it is, then it's not going to be as funny. But no, I think that accountability is the word that is often used or is often trying the idea of that is often trying to be portrayed when people are yelling at each other on a team, because it's usually has to do with the game. So if you're yelling at somebody that has nothing to do with whatever you're doing, then that's different versus you need to do better, because the whole purpose of accountability and yelling at people is to say, hey, you're wrong. We know you're wrong. Everyone knows you're wrong. I'm going to point you out and hold you accountable so that you can do better. And to your point, AOH, I think it seems from the outside looking in. I don't play in the NBA, obviously, but it seems like it's lacking because everyone is kind of soft. I mean, in a phrase, they just kind of like skirt around things. God, this camera, man. I move 1 second, it goes all to my trash on this dining room table because I'm still moving in. But but yeah, no, that's distracting. My bad. I'm not trying to derail from this. But yeah, no, I think that just isn't there. And it should be there. I think Michael Jordan excelled in that environment, even if he was the one that was mostly going and pushing it towards other people. I think on both sides of it, I think that if you're holding people accountable, you want to hold yourself more accountable, because most people don't, or I find most people don't like that are in those positions that actually have the wherewithal, they actually have the skills and the talent, and they start holding people accountable. They will hold themselves accountable more. There's a difference between an armchair quarterback and somebody who's an actual quarterback that's doing that to your face. If somebody does that to your face, generally speaking, in my opinion, they're the one. They have to do it themselves, or otherwise, there's no power behind it. So, I agree with that. And on the defensive side, I don't know if Jordan would be better. I think that he would be, though. I think that he would be. It would really, again, it would depend on how they wanted to play him. If they don't let him play the way he was good at specifically, I think he would do great either way. But I think those are things that you have to go and consider. Is the times and how they play defense now, because again, with the hand checking and the former illegal defense, those things would be a big factor to it.
Well, look at the way that they dribble now. I did a short video on this, and I was like, Michael Jordan would be stealing that shit all the time. Like, he was really fast, and he had those huge hands, and these guys are dribbling this shit up at their shoulder level.
Yeah,
and I guarantee he would have triple the steals that he currently has to his name.
Oh yeah, I co-sign that. Yeah, the way these guys, their lack of fundamental and discipline with the basketball. Oh, yeah. He's gonna garner a lot of steals, easy.
Well, and I know it's the NBA, but even with me, like just from when I play, these guys carry the ball every time they dribble too. That adds that split second there. If you have the footwork and you have the distance and you're quick as your hands too, I think that'd be easier because it was it was happening in the 90s a little bit too, but it's ridiculous nowadays. Like they just carry every dribble, it seems, if they're doing an ISO one-on-one. They've, now again, it's the NBA. I'm sure the offensive players know not to let guys get in certain positions that they're going to be able to steal. But at the same time, Mike would do that every once in a while and get the steal, in my opinion, because there's times where people don't do the right thing. But yeah, absolutely. I think that it's that aspect of it is terrible. And the game is so much slower in a way, or at least from. Do y'all think the game is slower? I mean, I watch it. Nobody's running. They might pass the ball. They might do pick and rolls, but it seems like nobody's sprinting. I mean, is that something you guys see or?
No, but it's interesting that the analysts call it a faster paced game.
Yeah.
I guess if you mean get across half court, chuck up a three, and then do the same thing on the other side repeatedly, then that's faster paced. But yeah, as far as no, not in any other way. Yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna co-sign what you guys are saying. I don't think it's a faster pace at all. Like, I think it's a misconception with all the three ball attempts. Like you say, racing to shoot a three, where you don't even really see like the fast break execution offense. Like, I'm seeing now where guys will have the numbers advantage, 2-on-4, 3-on-1, and they're selling for three when it's always been attack the basket. You have to play the numbers. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they're trying to misconstrue to the people, because no, I don't believe it's a faster pace. They're just jacking up a bunch of unnecessary three balls.
Anyways, you just got a super chat from Alex Lund. It says 7 and 9 for 11.99 euro. For AOH, love your channel. You're great. Let's say MJ would play today and not be bored. Do you think MJ would be able to develop his true game since the competition is abysmal compared to the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, it's interesting. He'd have to go back and play against his brother for the competition and the development. If you need competition in order to become the best version of yourself, then indeed, it may have limited his growth. Of course, as you guys have already said, and MJ has said, he'll find an excuse. He'll make up a motivation, but that's got to get tough season after season if you're not being challenged to even care. I mean, look, he wanted to go on to the next challenge. Baseball was a big challenge for him because he was clearly more gifted naturally for basketball, but maybe he would have done additional sports. Maybe he would have said, maybe, I'll go see if I can try something besides baseball sooner. I don't want to neglect anything this chat said. What else did he say?
Oh, I'll pull it up. There you go.
And I just thought of that when I said it at the beginning today. Would he have actually gotten bored? And the more I think about it, he really might have. Bored or disgusted. And someone in the chat said, well, but would he have been, you can't just provide the positives and slap it into today's era. Maybe he wouldn't have had the same personality. Well, I don't know. Now you're just talking philosophical stuff. Do we know how much different his parents would have been? Like, does every generation's parents become less disciplinary? To some extent, maybe. But, we're going down a wormhole trying to talk about whether or not he would have even been raised as the same person.
Oh yeah. There's all these what ifs. This is obviously a what if show, but in respect of this subject. But yeah, no, those are all fair points. You go into the twilight zone with these subjects. But AOH, you were going to say something, or you had an idea that you were going to bring up as Hoop God was talking, if you remember.
Nah, don't remember.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back to a point. Dart, I don't know if you or AOH stated this, but it was about the three ball. Now, I do remember Jordan said this right after was it game 2 when he set that record for most threes and a half. They were asking him, they were like, well, Mike, if you're so good at shooting three, how come you don't do it more? And he told him, he said, well, I look at it this way. When you hit one, guess what? You want to hit another one. You hit another one, guess what? You want to take another one. He said, so if you're so busy out here taking these threes, then it's taking you away from what you do best. And he said, I don't even like it, he said, because I get caught up in, when you see one go in, you see another one go in, you want to see more. And said, ultimately, it takes away from my aggression. And which it makes sense because at that time, Michael Jordan could get to literally any spot in that mid-range, rise up and shoot. And he still had a relatively good post game, but he didn't really start to embrace that post game until the second three-peat, even though he had it. But it was like, it made sense because it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you can get in that mid-range and, rise up and shoot, well, why settle for these long threes when, yeah, that is going to take away from your aggression. And then ultimately, he could get to the basket as well. So it made a lot of sense versus today when it's the complete opposite. It's like they want to shoot all these long threes and then they want to drive the paint second. And when it's supposed to be, the game has always been played inside out. And I believe that's what's taken away from the viewership and I would say the marketing, not to digress too much, but, having to have an in-season tournament and a play-in tournament, like you didn't need this stuff in the 80s and the 90s. Like what's with all these gimmicks now, because again, it's the style of play. Everybody want to shoot the three ball. That's what I wanted to chime in on.
And I did mention that at the beginning, I didn't quote him properly because I made it more about what I liked about it. MJ gave his reasons for why he didn't want to be the 3-point shooter, but the reasons he didn't want to be a 3-point shooter is what made the game more fun to watch to me, preventing it from just being a whoever makes the most threes wins. But he got interviewed during halftime during one of those classic all-star games, and they were running their asses off. And someone said, wow, you guys are really going out here. I thought it was going to be a slower game. And MJ says, it'll slow down when we start shooting the 3-pointers when we get tired. And man, does that not say a lot about today's NBA? It's a lazy version of basketball. Like personally, I prefer scoring inside. That's the way that I play. But guess what happens when I get tired? I start chucking up some shit from outside.
How tall are you, AOH?
6 even.
Okay. Yeah, I know for me, I can't shoot a 3-pointer to save my life, but I've injured my elbow doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I had somebody really hurt my elbow some time ago. So whenever I shoot a jump shot, I'll go and I put a lot of pressure on my elbow when I'm shooting. That's how I have a set shot versus a jump shot. So I put more of my power in my arms. But I can't shoot a 3. I have to change my whole shot. I have to drop the ball like lower in the pocket and just release way more on an arc, which may not be a bad thing, but it's a completely different shot for me. But yeah, no, for me, I usually, when I was a kid, I'd go and I would just use my body. I would drop, step, I'd make space that way. I would go and I would do up and unders, all that sort of stuff. But now, if I'm going to go play a kid like an 18-year-old my size, they're going to fight back. So I don't.
Wait,
do
how
that
big
anymore.
Are you?
I'm a little under 6'4", 250. Yeah. So, but now I'm going to be 37 soon. And last time I rolled my ankle, I just haven't been able to get back into it the way I was, and it was. Because I would sprint up and down the court. I would way outrun everybody. I'll still outrun people, but the sprinting on the court, and I'm just afraid to get injured again because
Dart, are you hooping in high tops or low tops?
So I started playing in high tops. Finally, I like low tops, but I started playing in high tops just so I don't roll my ankle.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say. Now, I tend to like to play in low tops because they feel lighter on my feet. But I would say get you a nice pair of ankle braces to prevent that, because that was something that I dealt with when I was younger, and I didn't like it. So I was like, you know what? Okay, let me tell you what. If I'm prepared, like they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I just started wearing ankle braces. No more ankle problems. But I was just thinking about that when you said it. I'm like, I'm wondering, is he playing high tops or low tops?
Yeah. No, but no, I have an unrollable ankle on a sidebar, or I think it is. I'm sure it is rollable or breakable, but I'm pretty sure I did it so bad once that it's really hard to do it again, because my one ankle is 4 times the size of the other. But no, but yeah, I'll take jump shots to the point of what AOH made. That's usually what I'll do. Is I'll go and I'll just do a hook shot. Like I'll get some space and I'll just do a hook shot, or I'll go and I'll take jump shots. I don't try to make space with my physicality anymore, because these kids are going to fight back, and I don't have the energy for that. I'm not trying to get hurt. On a sidebar with that, do y'all think that MJ would be as big of an icon as he was back in the 90s today?
Well, okay. So let me ask this question. Do they find the same? I would say the same blueprint before MJ, like how Nike created this global phenomenon. Like, do they find that, or would it be the same situation where, okay, he doesn't play in the 80s, but he plays in this era, and ultimately Nike, they strike gold, he becomes this worldwide phenomenon, be like Mike, the Gatorade, Hanes, Air Jordans. I mean, what I'm trying to figure out is there going to be a blueprint, or is he going to just take all that energy, all that marketing, and it ultimately transfers to this era with him as well? Because I'm really trying to figure out how I'm going to answer that without knowing, okay, did somebody else set that blueprint and lay the foundation, or
it's make believe land? What do you think? What do you think it would have? Do you think he would have done it, or there would have been a blueprint?
I'm gonna let AOH tackle that, and then I'll come back after that. And
well, now I can't get out of my head what that one person said. Would he have even been who he was? If you're talking that many generations later, and in my opinion, society has been on a down steady decline in terms of lack of accountability. Everyone's afraid to offend everybody, which means that now you can't criticize people, and criticism is what makes you better. Yeah. You need to be able to take criticism. So, of course, in a planet full of people who just yell, "Oh, you offended me," if they get criticized, then nobody's getting better. So what if Jordan was the Jordan from the past that we love today? Yeah, he'd be an icon, because he would be this thing that's different, completely different from everyone else. And you get fatigue, and you get people that would be like, wow, look at this. It's so much different than everything else that we're looking at, and all these whiny bitches. I mean, we talked about this in a past episode. One of the reasons that Jordan's legacy is still strong to this day is people's fatigue of what they're looking at now. They're like, oh, wow, people used to just actually compete and overcome back in the day, instead of taking to social media to explain how the refs screwed them over instead of actually playing better. Would Michael Jordan have gotten into the advanced nutrition and whatnot? I'm sure he would have accepted the physical therapy advances. I don't think he would have put down the cigar or the whiskey. He's not going to say, no, you're not telling me how to play, because look at his retirement. He wanted to come in and smash and excel at the time. He was living life for the moment. Like, I'm not going to give up the things that I enjoy in life so that I can play for 20 years, because that is counterintuitive to someone like that who's actually there for the moment and not to try and convince people that he was great because he played for 21 years.
Yep.
So
What's up?
I'll go out on the limb and say, yeah, I do believe he still would have been the same global icon, just seeing that what he did in the 90s with no social media. Granted, the criticism or whatever, but still with the mentality that he has, having that competitive nature against his brother, I feel like he would have had enough resources to, go back and say, okay, this is what I need to do to be great. Because again, coming into this era now, we also have to factor in, well, he is going to have the 3-ball from middle school, junior high, high school, college. Not saying that he still wouldn't develop that post game and mid range, but if he's shooting 36% from the field in the finals, that's his average. Well, I would have to say in the regular season, he's going to be hovering 37, 38%. He may have a few seasons shooting 41%. But if he's shooting in that era back then with the limited amount of spacing, well, I would have to say outweighing the odds with more spacing and less defensive impediment. And yeah, those numbers are going to go up because, again, we know he's going to put the work in. We know Michael Jordan is not going to be taking pictures about his workout, and getting these syringes and stuff like that and having his name being bandied about with performance-enhancing drugs. Michael Jordan is going to stay away from the cameras and just work on his game. And then we're going to see the results in the regular season. That's how he moved. That's how he operated. So, yeah, I just have to go out on a limb and say I believe he'd be he pretty much would be the same phenomenon that he was from the 90s. You just have to add in the social media aspect and, people having, I guess, more access to him. I don't know. He may not have Twitter. He may be one of those guys that doesn't have a page for that, because not everybody is doing it. Like Kawhi Leonard, for example, they'll bring him up. Like Kawhi Leonard doesn't have social media, so who says Michael Jordan would have it? So.
That's a good point. If we take his personality and just slap it into today, he probably wouldn't.
Right.
And he was very smart.
Oh, yeah.
You see, he gets a microphone thrown into his face out of nowhere, and he usually nails it. Yeah. He did say some things in his career that he probably would have reworded, looking back or knowing that people would have taken it as seriously as they did. But I'm sure that he would have adapted in the age of social media to make sure that he doesn't ever mess up.
and then I just thought about something. Hey, wait, you made me think about it. Remember when they had won the first championship and they were on their quest to win the second one. I think MJ kind of figured out how the media plays these mind games because they were talking about, I think he was being interviewed before the Portland series, and he was basically telling the reporter like, well, we understand what, our very small issues may be, but what we said, but what we're not going to do as a team is allow the media, to try to get us discombobulated and, cause a lot of confusion. So knowing that Michael Jordan knew how the media played games, I believe, he's taking that personality to this day and time, knowing that, all the little social media critics out here, like, I'm not even finna entertain myself with you guys because you're nothing but a distraction. Hey, we got a singular focus, get to the finals, win, everything else is irrelevant, So, yeah, I believe with that same mentality, he would understand how the guys on not Undisputed, I'm sorry, First Things First, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, of course, ESPN. He would know how to block out that noise because he knows, okay, you guys are nothing but another form of the media from the 90s trying to stir the pot, cause some division. No, not even gonna let that happen. So I was just glad you brought that up. It just made me think about that.
Yeah, I think he'd have similar icon. And to y'all's points, I mean, even today, he doesn't have social media after it came out. So, granted, he was younger at that point. He may have been more influenced to do it. But y'all used the Kawhi example as well. But just to the point of it is that I think that the icon would have been similar because he was even different back then. I mean, that was one of the things that helped sell him, propel him, was all the things that we're talking about even to this day about him. It was different than many people back then. Now, granted, was a similar culture and style of what was accepted or what was applauded in respect to, I guess, living more, I guess, taking a harder road in some respect, if you want to put it that way, being accountable, holding people accountable, doing the right thing when it's hard. And like what's been said is that I think in today's society, it's about protecting feelings versus protecting whatever the foundation of what you're working for is. If it's basketball, being better at basketball versus getting yelled at. But I think it would be similar. But do you think that is there any way that either of you see Michael Jordan's personality being wildly different? Again, like, this is make-believe land, but let's say he had a similar upbringing in respect to how his parents treated him, imposing technology. Do you think, is there any way that you all see that Michael Jordan would have been soft per se?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
No, I don't think he would have been. Again, he's coming up with the same environment, same father, same older brother. Nah, because I didn't come up with the older brother, but I came up in a similar situation, having a strong-minded father. And they teach you that, hey, what other people's opinions about you, it doesn't write you a check. It doesn't help you in any type of way, so why do they matter? So nah, I don't believe he would have been, because again, these things are instilled from childhood, upwards. And when you're raised a certain way, people's opinions don't really move you to the left or to the right.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? I was going to drop the link otherwise, accept callers.
Let's get some callers in here.
All righty.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I was thinking about what Jerry West was saying. That was like ultimately who I was paraphrasing from on the first topic we discussed about Jordan, because I heard him mentioning that Colin Cowherd had replayed a clip back from 2020, and it made me think about it. Like, I mean, he's doing this against the Detroit Pistons and of course Larry Bird's Celtics. And the level of defense, being able to body up and hand check and hard foul, I'm like, I can imagine.
More, vado un attimo live nel stream.
Welcome, Alessandro. The
Hey guys.
seemingly undefeated MJFB Summer Debate League guy. He's got a win over me, and it looks like he's going to get a win over Robin.
We'll see.
But how are you today, sir?
I'm fine. It's actually the first time I'm able to watch the live at this time. So I want to say hello to everybody.
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Doing great, thank you. You and the super chat that was from me. The super chat for AOH before, it was from me.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. I love you guys. I love you guys and you, AOH. I think we are about the same age, I believe, because about when you talk, I feel my age. Okay, and I want to say something. First of all, I want to congratulate you for your videos, in particular the video you made with the comparison between Michael Jordan when he was in the Wizard against the Hornets, compared to LeBron against the Hornets.
The 38-year-old comparison.
Yeah. And
cool.
It was really great. And I think that and I'm really serious about this, I think young guys, they should watch that video over and over again to understand why LeBron James is not even in the top 10. Because back then, Michael Jordan was the greatest in his time. But the thing is that most of the people in the league, they were playing like that. So LeBron, the way he's playing right now is just ridiculous, in my opinion. Just waiting, it's stupid. I don't know how to put it. And I want to ask you something to all the panel. I believe, as I said in my comment, that it's something about the the attitude of Michael Jordan that is very different, not just the playing abilities, the technique, and etc. And first of all, I think that one LeBron James maybe technically it could be a great player back in the days, but with his attitude, it wouldn't be. It would maybe do one season and then retire because he couldn't be able to handle with his attitude, I believe. But my question is, do you think that the mentality of Michael Jordan compared to the mentality of today's players, do you think that because let's say Michael Jordan today, it wouldn't be in the 80s and 90s. So today's players, they wouldn't have the opportunity to see Michael Jordan in the 80s and 90s. So his mentality would be like alien today, like something out of this world. I don't know. What do you think about that?
At the risk of being redundant, because I think I kind of mentioned that earlier, it would be alien. I don't know how long he would have been able to put up with people who wouldn't take criticism or complain to the coach or complain to social media or I don't know, people that didn't like getting dunked on or having his nuts in their face constantly. I mean, they get offended by all kinds of things. Yeah, and or look, as he said, he's alien. He would get upset if you didn't try to block his shot. It's like,
exactly.
Like, how many open dunks are you people going to give me? You know,
it would take I think it would take offense to that. I think it would be offended. It would be like, okay, you don't think I'm good enough to try to block me? I don't know, right?
Yeah, or why am I even bothering to be here?
Exactly.
It's so different than LeBron James, who cherry picks, dunks wide open, and then yells into the crowd and flexes while they're losing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's proud of not being contested. And
Jordan
whereas Jordan would have been like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm done.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think that was your second part, how would LeBron do in the 80s essentially?
No, I mean, yes, because I heard many times people saying that LeBron would be great even in the 80s and 90s. And I think that maybe, I believe that LeBron James, in my opinion, is like a kind of, not Michael Jordan, but a kind of Karl Malone without a mid-range, because Karl Malone actually had a good mid-range. But because he doesn't have the attitude, because his attitude is like a crybaby attitude. And in the 80s and 90s, that wouldn't cut off. So it's not cut off for that. So maybe physically, okay, but not mentally, not with this attitude.
I think with LeBron in the 80s, and now AAU, I think it's been around the organization since the late 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. But it really didn't start ramping up until it was around for these guys. But the AAU culture has really taken over in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, it existed back then, but I was reading up on it for a show that I had done recently. It's a completely different world versus when it was around back in the 70s, let's say, when Michael Jordan would have been part of it.
Yes.
And we got FYF Sports here in the background. But I think that if LeBron went, it would have been different because it wasn't as big. I mean, LeBron, you had heard that he would gone in and that he had lived with one of his coaches, if I'm not mistaken. The whole TV thing that was brought about by Michael Jordan. I think he would have been good, but I don't know if all things went the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome FYF Sports. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. I saw you guys talking about it. Yeah, what was to hop in, man? My biggest question would be, in these conversations, there's so many players you can make comparisons with, why does the comparisons always fall to comparing to LeBron? That's what I want to know. Because and because I mean, I don't care where people rank LeBron. If you don't think he's great, then why to continue comparisons to Jordan? LeBron can't do this, but Jordan can. LeBron couldn't do this in this era. If he can, if he's not this and that, then why keep comparing? Why don't you just move on to Wilt? Talk about the other players, the Kobe's, just move on to the next.
And do you mean us, or do you mean the media in general?
No, just in general, just even right now. I just thinking.
I'm doing what I'm doing because obviously the media has hitched their wagons to LeBron. They want by constantly comparing LeBron to Jordan to keep him in the conversation that he is at least the second best. And I agree with you. He shouldn't be in that conversation. So
I didn't say he shouldn't be in the conversation. That's not what I'm saying. We know the media is always going to pick a player to push for marketing purposes. So we can push the media aside because they have an agenda that's completely different from what we're talking about. The basketball aficionados, the basketball junkies. So we know the media has their own. They're going to push whoever they push for marketing purposes in real basketball conversations. Right. And if we're saying that this is a legitimate basketball conversation, why
continue? What do you mean by push? What does that look like?
Push. Say that again.
What do you mean?
It's just media. I mean, obviously media has so every 10, 20, 30 years, they're going to pick a player to push. Whether we like it or not, they're going to push a player. Right now, the WNBA hates the fact that everybody's pushing Caitlin Clark. You can hate it or love it, but they're going to push her. Right, she's going to get that push from the media, whether she's the GOAT or not, because right now she's just the chosen one. So I separate what the media does from real basketball talk, and I just think that if there's other players to compare to Jordan, is there another player we can have this conversation about that we can nitpick that might belong in the conversation?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't. And I've talked to you about this, FYF. I think dominance for me is about titles, what you've earned, what you've won. I think awards are overrated, like the MVPs, the All NBAs, the All Defense. A lot of those things matter to people, but those are voted on, and most of them don't have any criteria. So they're essentially media-based awards, the All-Stars. So for me, when I go and I look at the greatest players of all time, I look at the things that they earned, that they won, titles versus awards. So for me, I only talk about LeBron is because the media does. Otherwise, I really don't care about LeBron. I really don't. But that's why I do it.
I wanted to chime in too because FYF made a great point. Yeah, we definitely could bring up Kobe Bryant because there's been several times media analysts back then were putting him in the conversation with Jordan. As a matter of fact, Mark Jackson, there's a clip who was speaking very highly of Kobe in comparison to Michael Jordan. I believe it was in the 2008 finals. He analogized it to Muhammad Ali and I believe Joe Frazier, and he was like, "Nah, no, Customato, that's who it was." And Kobe was like, nah, I'm in that Ali category. So, no, there's been players before LeBron. There's going to be players after LeBron. I believe the problem is, and I'm speaking in general when I say this, is that the people who actually watch the game of basketball, when we look at the measurables, we look at the physical capabilities, it's like he doesn't measure up to Michael Jordan. If we look at LeBron, his style of play to me is more comparison to a Wilt Chamberlain type, Karl Malone's physique. More like a Grant Hill style of play. It's like nothing about LeBron reminds me of Jordan. But again, this is the environment and the climate that we're in. And of course, that's who they want to push to do what? Like you said, I agree, garner the ratings, because the people who don't like Caitlin Clark, I don't think it's basketball related, right? I like Caitlin Clark. I think she's great for the game, just like I like Angel Reese. Like, I don't have any favorites at play because I see beyond the media in their mind games. Like, I know what they're trying to do. And it will work on the people who are easily influenced. But back to this topic at hand here, no, I've never seen LeBron's style of play and said, "Oh yeah, that was Jordan-like." Like, nah.
Can I ask you one question, Hoopka? This is my question, and I think this is the scary part about these basketball conversations. This is where it gets scary to me. I got Jordan as the GOAT. Jordan did it his own unique way. Jordan did not look like Kareem. Jordan didn't look like Wilt.
Right.
Jordan didn't look like Bill Russell. He didn't have to look like his predecessors to usurp them. It seems like after Jordan, the only way you can potentially pass Jordan is if you not only duplicate everything that he did, but your game has to mirror his and reflect his, and it has to be better than what he did. You have to be better in the clutch than Jordan. You have to have a better fadeaway jumper. You have to, your game has to mirror Jordan's to usurp Jordan. And I think that's where it gets scary, because I think there's a lot of talent coming into this league and none of it looks like Jordan. And my problem is that none of these guys are ever going to get a fair shot at the top because none of their games mirror Jordan's. And so it's always going to be what you just said. Your game doesn't look like Jordan's. It doesn't look like what I saw. And so you won't give them a fair shot. So how can we give these guys a fair shot when their games look completely different? Style of play is different. What can they potentially do if, let's say, Victor Wembanyama has a hell of a career? What can he do to be the GOAT? Because his game never is going to look like Michael Jordan's.
See, I'll counter that one with your own point. You started it by saying that MJ changed how we looked at a GOAT during
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
You started by talking about Kareem. Now,
no, that's not what I said.
Something new that made us think it differently. There's no way, for me personally, I love seeing a great basketball player. If we saw somebody who played differently and blew our minds, I just can't believe that they're going to say, wow, this is mind-blowing, but it doesn't mirror Jordan. I don't know. I think that's a stretch.
But that's exactly what Hoop God just said. That was my point. He said LeBron is great, but it doesn't look like Jordan. That's what he just said. That's why I was addressing him. He said that. And I said,
I'm gonna come back to that when AOH finish, because you said something that kind of like, I don't know, the light bulb went off, but I don't want AOH to lose his spot.
Well, one other thing happened. It's not just that we have this ongoing conversation about who the GOAT is, or that we're not talking about the right people necessarily. It's that the conversation came into existence at all, because I don't remember when Magic was the one of the greatest. I don't remember people always saying, yeah, but is he better than so-and-so? That's something that came later. I think maybe I'm not old enough to remember, but I don't remember it being a priority for people to say, yeah, but is he the best ever? No, it's just like we're really enjoying what we're seeing right now. But maybe I don't remember. I think the whole who is the GOAT thing became prioritized later on.
Hey, so FYF, everything that you were saying about having a better fadeaway jumper, being more clutch, just having that dog mentality. With all of those factors that you mentioned, what player does that remind you of? Just when you're visualizing that, when you were speaking on Jordan.
So that particular style of play is Kobe.
Okay, now stay with me.
Doesn't necessarily mean, and that's what all I'm saying is, because I don't want to go player for player. I'm not trying to compare who's better or not. What I'm saying is, if another player comes along and his style of play is completely unique from Michael Jordan, his game is completely different, are we penalizing these guys because they don't look like Jordan? Now, are we going to give them a fair shake?
That's what
like Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to chime in on. I'm glad you brought that up, because we have to look at it like this. Now, what you said, I actually agree, because before Michael Jordan, what was the standard of winning, or what was the paradigm? You had to have a great big man, great little man, right? If we go all the way back to the beginning, you had Cousy, you had Russell, you had West, you had Chamberlain, you had Oscar Robertson, you had Kareem, right? Then you had Magic. I mean, not Kareem, I'm sorry. Oscar. Yeah, Oscar and Kareem, my bad. And then you had Magic and Kareem, right? So we look at all of these different variations. It generally was the same. Great big man, great little man. Well, then Michael Jordan came along, right? Before then, look at the draft. I mean, that even verifies it. Hakeem Olajuwon, Sam Bowie, right? Everybody had to have the great big man. But then Michael Jordan comes along. What happens? He changes the paradigm of winning. Not only did they cater the offense around a wing player, but he was leading the league in scoring and still winning the championships, because that hadn't been done since who? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I seen somebody mention Bird in the comments. Yeah, give Bird his respect too, but he was a front court player. I'm talking about wing players. Before Michael Jordan, no team had catered their offense around a wing player, and then he was the leading scorer and ultimately was the X factor of winning. Now, what you said about Victor, I do believe he could implement a different paradigm, being 7'4", can shoot the three, the best defender, the rim protector, and I mean he's literally an alien. Now, if they can surround him with the requisite pieces, yeah, I do believe Victor could change a paradigm of winning that we could say, okay, well, who are these next big men going to be compared to? Victor Wembanyama, can you shoot the three? Can you handle the rock? And just to throw this in there, I hope he goes to Kareem and learns the hook shot, because you got a 7'4" guy throwing a Kareem hook shot. Who's going to block that?
I think that what I'm saying is, you immediately went with Victor Wembanyama, saying he can be the next Kareem, or I don't even know if that's what you were trying to say. I don't want to quote you wrong.
No,
what I'm saying is, how can I want you to think about this?
Yeah.
And this is where you think outside the box. What can Victor Wembanyama do where at the end of his career you say he passed Michael Jordan, he's the GOAT?
I won't necessarily say he'll pass Michael Jordan.
No. I'm saying, what do you need to see on his resume when he retires where you say he's the GOAT now? He passed Mike.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking on. I don't necessarily believe he's going to pass Mike, because back to what you said earlier,
it's hypothetical. I don't think it'll happen either. I just want you to, if there was a player that had something on their resume when they retired, what does it need to be for you to say, okay, this player passed up Mike?
Right. Now, that would be as far as his accomplishments, I'm assuming. So him winning more than 6 championships, the MVPs, kind of like Dart said, that doesn't really play a factor to me, because Steve Nash got 2 MVPs, Hakeem and Shaq and Kobe got 1. So I don't really think the MVPs is going to matter, but I do believe he's going to win multiple Defensive Player of the Year. I will go on a limb and say, okay, if they can, I got a better one for you. They win 4 straight, just 4 straight. I honestly believe they would put him, we've never seen this before, right? So just by that metric alone, I believe that could put him up there on that mantle. The reason why, Kareem had 6 titles. Jordan had 1 3-peat, and they already said he was the greatest of all time. And Kareem still had 6 more titles. But I do believe if Victor can go on a 4-peat, 4 MVPs, no losses, 2 or 3 Defensive Player of the Years, I could legitimately see them saying he's the greatest player of all time.
And what would make, and I love that you said that. Now, what would make that particular body of work better than Bill Russell? Because he did everything that you said tenfold.
Yeah.
He was the absolute most dominant defensive player we've ever seen.
Yeah.
He you talk about revolutionizing the game, he revolutionized the block, the fast break, defense as we know it. And he won greater than, if you exclude MVPs, with MVPs in his time, far more valuable because the players voted, not the media.
Right.
So they held more, a little bit more, right? If some of the defensive accolades would have existed, he would have had them all every single year. So he did. So, and this is what I'm saying. He did everything that you just said tenfold. Do you have Bill Russell as the GOAT?
No, because you have to look at Victor's offensive prowess. That would separate him from Bill. And then I know Bill was like, I would say slightly above average, because people would have to go back and watch the games to, understand. But yeah, see, Victor's like, it's like, to me, he's just as talented offensively as he is defensively. And that would be the separator. And then again, you're looking at the era that he's playing in against, granted more teams, not to penalize Bill, because I mean, he played who he played against, but factoring in this era, this style of play, we haven't seen a guy 7'4" that has like guard-oriented offensive abilities, but then he also has the great low post ability that a traditional big man needs. And then ultimately, he could just literally control the paint down low. I mean,
so the ultimate decider for you wouldn't be championships; it would be the offensive bag.
Well, yeah, championships would play, but
when you're scary. Yeah, when you go down that road, that's gonna get scary.
Yeah, no, I'm saying when you're saying Bill Russell is what I'm speaking on. So I'm looking at, his offense is gonna separate him from Bill. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, if we're gonna go in a general perspective, Herm Edwards said this: you play to win the game. So yeah, it would be championships, but I was speaking more so on Bill Russell on that part, what would separate him, because I think.
But wasn't Bill in his own right a great offensive player? He just did it in a different way. Do you have to score the ball to be great? He was one of the best big playmaking big men ever. He scored when he needed to. He was called. He was Mr. Game 7. I mean, he never lost a Game 7. He when he needed to, like, he was offensively great in his own right. And so then we get to, I think that's why I say it gets tricky, because if you have a criteria of winning, I just think this is where I think Bill gets completely disrespected. Like he gets more disrespected. I mean, I hear people talking about LeBron. I think Bill needs to be that other guy. He has the resume that dominates everybody.
I mean, I agree. I got Bill in my top 6, so I'm with you there.
Real fast, Lamont. We got this timeless youth is here, and we're giving you the floor for a little bit. But
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. I'm just we just got other people waiting. I want to include them as well. But I appreciate your questions, and to quickly answer, I already said for me it's about titles, about my GOAT criteria, about what you earn and you win. But yeah, I appreciate you calling in. Timeless Youth, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here, man. What's good, brothers?
Man, Timeless Youth has been waiting. Patient.
Oh man, hey, it's all good, man. I love good basketball talk, man. I love to talk, but I love to listen as well.
Did you have a question for the panel, or?
My question is, what would be y'all's favorite moment when Jordan came back from retirement? What year? Like, what would it be? 96, 97, or 98? I know it's a random, but
a favorite moment or favorite year playing?
What favorite year? Favorite year.
Oh.
After he came back from retirement.
Okay. For me, I would say it was. I guess it'd have to be 98 for me, because at that point I was 11 years old. So it's either that or the Space Jam, because I was a kid when Jordan was out. So it was it's like the golden era for me, when I was conscious enough to remember it going on and follow it, but it was still all super magical. But I'd have to say 98, because I remember it the most. And then he also had the final shot over Russell. It was just all kind of magical and he had a storybook career, in my opinion. I think that really helps his GOAT case. But 98, I'd have to say was that for that reason for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Hoop God?
Yeah, and the Bulls kind of I got to add one thing. The Bulls won 60+ games with Pippen missing some part of the season too.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick because I want the other guys to chime in. It's 96 for me, because again, he had just lost to the Orlando Magic, and people were wondering if he could still come out and get the job done. I mean, the rest is history. All NBA first team, all defensive first team, 72 wins, championship finals MVP. Fittingly, he did it on Father's Day, ironically, which is today. So yeah, it'd be 96 for me.
Right. I say 96 too, because he won league MVP, he won All-Star Game MVP, and he won Finals MVP.
My answer,
and he won the scoring title.
96, 96 and 96
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
We have a delay. The delay always causes that. It's got to be 96 and 95. Even though 95 didn't end well, I remember the excitement of the I'm back line. I was waiting tables. I was in college and I was waiting tables, and the TV above the bar was showing it. And dude, it was really important to people that he came back. And, my college buddies, I was working, I didn't get to see, but they were like, yeah, man, he was making people look like idiots again already. And he was rusty, but he was a different level guy. So it was exciting to have, it was really exciting to have him back. It meant a lot to the NBA. 96 was just a good year for me. In general, I had moved to California. I was enjoying watching. I thought that the Sonics were a pretty likable team, a fun team to watch, and yet you couldn't go wrong with Jordan and the 96 Bulls. So I felt blessed that we had that kind of a finals. And then by 97 and 98, I was rooting against Jordan because I was just felt bad for everybody that he was preventing from getting rings. So it can't be 97 or 98 for me because nostalgically, I look back at it and say, yeah, I was still really enjoying that. And it was because of Michael Jordan being there, but I was rooting against him at the time. So I'd probably be lying to say that I had favorite Jordan moments.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Alessandro? I know from Italy you didn't get to watch a lot of the games live, but I don't. If you want to explain more about that, were those games live over there, the playoff games, or?
No, they were not live. Well, actually, we had a cable. We have to pay something to watch the. Well, we can watch it. No, we could watch it live, but we have to pay a cable contract to watch it. Actually, two things. I get it now that AOH is much older than me because I was like 16 years old when Michael came back and he was already in college. So he's much older than me. But anyway.
How old are you?
I'm 1979.
Oh, yeah, I am older than you.
Okay.
I know. I look good. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, you look good. Yeah. I'm too white. I have too gray in my hair. So
got a great hair routine.
I don't have a gray hair here.
No, it's not only the beard for you. And for me was well, I was a teenager, so I remember the '92 when they went to the Olympics, and then I was crushed when they when he retired, and I remember that I was really elated when he got back. It was really a great moment for us in Italy because that's the thing that I'm upset with myself because by saying that stuff with LeBron, I kind of helped the panel to talk about LeBron than Michael, but this is another show, so I'm sorry for that. One thing that I want to say about that is that to me, Michael Jordan shouldn't be even in the top place. I mean, he is in another level. Maybe only people that went through that can understand how big Michael Jordan is. And the thing is that nobody can be compared to him only because the fact that nobody has a line of shoes with his own name. Nobody will ever do that. No LeBron, no one. And it was so huge, Michael Jordan. If you talk to anyone, even here in Italy, and I'm talking from an Italian perspective, if I go out now and I ask to an 80-year-old woman, who is Michael Jordan, she knows who he is. If I ask her who is LeBron James, she doesn't know who LeBron James is, because that's how huge Michael Jordan was. And the thing that, for example, Bill Russell, he won more, and yes, he won more titles. But because we are talking about Michael Jordan being in today's NBA, which is hypothetical. Let's say that Bill Russell was not there, but Will Chamberlain was in the Boston Celtics. If Will Chamberlain was in Boston Celtics instead of Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain would be the GOAT with no question, even behind Michael Jordan. No question about that, because he was the best scorer and he was a great rebounder, was a great defender, and he would have 11 titles. Nobody could top that, in my opinion.
I got to pick it back off of that one. Go ahead, brother.
This is in my opinion. And the thing that that's why, to me, Michael Jordan can be compared to anyone. And the problem is that the media create this illusion of this comparison with LeBron James for the only reason that Michael Jordan retired in 2003, and then LeBron James came in, and I was 24 years old. I remember vividly, and I was really happy. And I said, okay, Michael Jordan is not there anymore. We need another great. That was the feeling I had, and I was 24, 25 years old, and I remember that, and I said, wow, that's great. The new GOAT of the NBA. We didn't call it GOAT until the next the last few years, but that was the feeling. But then when I started to hear this guy, it was like 19, 20 years old. He was talking, they were talking about him like he was bigger than Michael Jordan. He didn't even win one title. And I said, why? Who are you? I mean, let's go and win some titles, and you win maybe 2 or 3 times the scoring title, and then we talk. And that's, for me, that's the point when LeBron James is, to me, is out of the question, because you didn't win anything, and the media, they already put you on the top of who? You're not top of anyone to me.
Yeah,
And
at a minimum, it has to make you suspicious.
yes, that's
matter-
that's the reason. That's the reason. And that's why. So sorry for the confusion about LeBron James. Sorry about that. And I have to say goodbye, guys. Sorry.
All right,
See you
Alessandro,
next
thanks for
time.
calling
Bye
in.
bye, guys. Ciao.
The real fast, just to comment on some of what he said. I don't think he actually answered the 96 through 98 question, but I lived in a couple countries in Europe for a while, and it was a similar thing. FYF, what was your favorite 96 to 98?
You got. I mean, I just don't see how you don't go with 96. It was the funnest year of basketball. Jordan on his revenge tour. Pippen probably might have been the best version. They added one of the craziest personalities in Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
You talking about just the best team ever. I mean, you got the best players from internationally, and Luke Longley and Tony Kukoc. You got the best 3-point shooter, best player, best defender, best coach. And then you just literally watch them run through the league, running high school diamond presses on NBA teams. And it's just crazy to see, man. Just complete dominance, man. Just one of the funnest years to watch, man.
I got a sidebar question for you, because we have this guy Politicus Rex come on here sometimes.
Yeah.
So would you classify yourself as a basketball fan or not?
A basketball fan?
Yeah. Would you call yourself a fan?
I just consider myself, and I don't want to say a fan, because I think fans are like kind of fanatics, and they kind of, and bias comes in. I just say I'm like a student of the game. I coach, played at a high level, did everything, did everything I could, just continuously studying different coaches, always asking questions. And I would just say a student of the game, and that's it.
Yeah. Do you think that Michael Jordan would be better in today's NBA?
You would. So when you look at his game, who he was, and I think I was talking to Gilbert Arenas, and he brought up an interesting point that I really pushed back against for a while, and I think he convinced me of it. But I think when you start moving these players around, if you move Jordan up into this era, you have to give him the advancements of this era, the things that help make these players great. And if you give him the resources of this era and you add it to what he was able to do, I think he would be, as far as just an individual player, yes, he would probably be the best individual player. I just think it gets dicey when you talk about the accomplishments, because with all the player mobility, who knows what team you fall on. I think that's where a little bit of the luck comes in, where you get drafted, who you get drafted to, because if you can't retain players, you ain't winning nothing. And with player mobility, it's just hard to say anything. Anybody can run off 2-3 peats in this era.
All
so
right.
that's the only thing. But greatness wise, he would be much better than what we saw in the 90s.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that.
Hey, could I come back on something that FYF was speaking on? Not on this topic, but the previous one. When you said Pippen. Now, I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but I just think physically, I think Pippen was at his best in that first three-peat, and here's why. Because when they ran that Doberman defense, right, you got Pippen that wasn't dealing with the back injuries that he was dealing with, in the second three-peat. And they were literally like capitalizing on people's defensive mishaps, mistakes, and creating like havoc and turnovers in the half court. Now, I think Pippen was more of a playmaker in that half court in that second three-peat, which is I see why you said, Pippen at his best. But when I'm looking at Pippen, just the two-way ability, right? I think it was that 91 to 93. Because I'm watching series, when I go back and watch now, just how they were just creating so much havoc on the defensive side. Like, I've seen enough of the flashy layups and all that. That's cool. Now I'm trying to look at the signs. I'm looking at, I'm going in depth. Like, okay, so basically they were able to cut off this guy here. They played the passing lane here. They made this guy, dribble the ball too many times here, just forced him into a bad situation. So I could be like, okay, so these guys were just literally like Dobermans on defense. And when they initiated that, I mean, they were just blowing people out the water.
You're definitely right. I don't want to harp on it too long. I would say that because I've gotten into coaching, I think maybe I'm a little bit more biased towards the cerebral side, and I think players hit their peak when they hit their cerebral peak, and that's why I think 96 Jordan was the best Jordan, because that wasn't maybe the best, most athletic Jordan, but that was the most cerebrally, mentally. I think that was the smartest Jordan we had ever seen. So I think you hit your peak when your mind matches the game, and I think that's Pippen's peak when his mind matched it as well.
Right, and I agree. Yeah, like that's something I wanted to speak on. Yeah, I think it's like a sports nirvana when that mental prime hits that physical prime, and it's like probably about what, a 3, maybe 4 year time period right there. See, I'm with you on that one.
Hey, wait, what do you think was the best version of Michael Jordan, if you had to say?
I don't have a definitive year. I enjoyed it for different reasons, different times. Yeah, I'd be lying if I tried to make one up on the spot. I haven't chosen one.
Yeah, my favorite is the one where he fights the aliens, or not fights the aliens, plays basketball against aliens. I think that's his best version, because he's able to go and stretch his arms out and dunk from the half court. I think that's the best version of Michael Jordan we ever saw, or didn't see.
What year did you say? What version?
But when the aliens came over and tried to take over the NBA in 1995. But
hey, I don't really have a favorite Michael Jordan year, but that first championship run, like that whole season, he played like, this championship is mine. He was like, if I get to the finals, we're winning. No, it wasn't if we're going to the finals and we're winning the championship. So for me, 91 would be like a favorite. I ain't gonna just say it was the best.
Everybody else went.
Yeah, what do you think's the best version?
I was going to follow up on what Thomas said. I believe it's 91 simply because they were able to get over that hurdle of the bad boy Pistons. Then ultimately they went up against Magic Johnson, who still at that time was the pinnacle. Like you take down Magic, now you can assume the throne. But even to go further, I believe that was the best version of Jordan, because if I'm not mistaken, he led them in all 4 of the 5 top categories. I want to say it was either blocks or rebounds, one of those 2 that he led in, of course, in concert with the points and assists and steals. Now, to me, that I say that's the best version, because before that, what was the verdict out on Michael Jordan? Where a scoring champion can't lead his team to championships, and he's a ball hog, he shoots too much, but yet he still set a record to this day that hasn't been duplicated by anybody that's not a 9-point guard, with 11 and a half assists per game in this series. Like, Magic is the only one that has more assists per game in the finals, I want to say. I think he has like 3 other categories over Jordan, and then Jordan is like 4th, but he's the second player. That showed he could be a scorer, he could be a playmaker, excellent defender. I mean, he pretty much did it all. So I would say 91, because he was at his hungriest. Of course, overcoming the bad boy Pistons, winning that first championship, and then, showing that his playmaking ability, like, no, I can do more than score. I can play make. And he also set a record in 13 consecutive field goals. That's still a record. So yeah, if I had to choose, it'd be the 91.
Third game too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions they want to bring up now? I can pull one out my butt, but I figured somebody might want to hold a panel on something.
I gotta bounce pretty quick.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? This is a question. And I already know the answer. Response I'm going to get. And why does Scottie Pippen not get top 10 consideration?
He's in my top 25. I got a lot of pushback from that from a lot of people, but I think
get a lot of pushback as well for having him in my top 25 too. I don't understand it, but man, the Pippen.
You said top 10 consideration?
Yes, top 10 consideration.
So I do believe you have to at least be able to get your team to the final. Granted, if you even win or lose. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because we would have to go back and look. Now, we know, Pippen they call him, the second option of the cycle, which I don't think it's a bad thing per se. But I would have to go back and look like, okay, so we got Dirk, he's got 2 title runs as the best player, the lead guy. We got Hakeem Olajuwon. Then we got Jerry West. We got to look at Moses Malone. Like, we have so many guys that we have, okay, these guys were able to get to the finals, right? Now, Pippen, 94, he has his opportunity, right? They get to the second round, but then they get defeated by the New York Knicks. Now, I don't really think it's a bad thing, but it's kind of like the way you go out, right? So you sit on the bench because you're not afforded the game-winning shot. Well, I would have to deduce that you weren't really the guy taking those shots in those moments in practice or any other situation. So my thing is, why would you feel like you need to do that now when Kukoc was the better option, in which he made the shot, right? So I would have to put that factor into the equation. Then I would have to go to 99. All right, you got Hakeem, you got Barkley. All right, they may be, long in the tooth, but you went there for a reason. I'm knowing that it's championships. It doesn't happen. Okay, go to Portland. A 7-game series when they had the Lakers down, and then you as the lead guy got walked down, you still don't get to the final. So I think you have to put those factors into the equation, because you had 3 different scenarios where you were the lead guy, you still didn't get there. Then we have to look at other guys who stayed on one team essentially, got to the finals, may have lost one, won one, or got there and won one and never got there again. So it's like that, to me, we have to acknowledge that, because these guys were able to get there. I think Pippen's style of play is very suitable to a lot of championship teams. However, if you don't get there as the number one guy, then it's kind of like, can we really give him that luxury of top 10 versus the other guys who were able to get there and do it as the lead guy?
Hey, wait, first, where did you get that chalice? Did you find it in a cave somewhere?
Yeah, I got to get one of those.
That's where I got it.
Where do you think that Pippen is? For me to answer real quick, I don't think Pippen is near top 10, but I think he's in my fringe top 25. He's last time I did it, I think I had him number 23. But AOH, do you think that he's a top 10? Well, real fast, actually, you got a super chat. I guess we'll do that. $5 US. Larry Bird is similar. As Michael Jordan and Larry did a lot of things before Michael. How could Michael Jordan go ahead of Larry Bird? If you want to answer that real fast, AOH. And then do you think that Pippen is a top 10 player?
Oh, jeez. All right. Pippen top 10. Come on. What are we fucking spending our time talking about? This is, Pippen from season 3 was being called the underappreciated. He spent his entire career with everybody saying, wow, he is fantastic. The whole idea that Pippen wasn't appreciated isn't even truthful. The idea that Pippen was better than he was, here's the reason. Because Pippen, anyone who could very possibly not even exist as a household name if they hadn't been on the team that they were on, can't be a top 10. Pippen would not exist in our minds without Jordan. Period. Like LeBron would not exist in our minds if he had not jumped around to places that would carry him. Neither of those guys can be top 10. They would not be able to do it themselves. And Pippen's best case against that is riding the residuals of a successful franchise in 94, 95. And then we saw who he really was. And we saw why Pippen would have never even reached the level that Pippen reached if he hadn't had Michael Jordan there to groom him and turn him into the best possible version of himself. The Larry Bird thing, I don't even understand. I don't think people really disrespect Larry Bird, but it's hard to say that Jordan didn't do more than Bird. I'm not sure I understand that super chat, but I do appreciate it if it is for me. Similar, Michael Jordan and Larry did a lot of things before Michael. How could Michael Jordan go ahead of Larry Bird? Anyone else make sense of that question for me?
I'm gonna assume he's talking about the efficiency that Larry Bird played with, which cannot be denied. Him being able to adjust, the 3-ball game when essentially he didn't even grow up with the 3-ball, because I know a lot of people like to harp on 81 or whatever, but I'm like, okay, that's great, but look at how much of a monster he was on the boards. I mean, I think that plays a significant factor in Cedric Maxwell getting those additional shots. But I mean, just look at Bird from 84 to 86 playoffs. I mean, his efficiency is off the chain. He's shooting the 3-ball in an era that he didn't grow up in. Like, he's literally learning on the fly, winning three-point contests, then going 50, 40, 90 in 87, 88 in those 2 seasons. So I'm assuming he's talking about Bird's efficiency and being a monster rebounder, 10 rebounds per game. Because I mean, their assists are virtually the same. But Bird and Jordan, they both average 6 assists per game for a career. So of course Jordan is more athletic, but again, you got to have the skills and the fundamentals. So I don't really know where he's going with that. I wish he would have went into more detail, because I mean, they have some similarities, but ultimately they're diametrically opposite players.
I think he was just trying to say that Larry Bird was a very great player. Why are people overlooking Larry Bird?
I mean, I got Bird in my top 5, so I don't overlook him. I think it's the modern day viewers that they just don't go back and watch Bird. My bad, FYF.
Hey, Dart, the funny thing about it, it's funny that Bird came up, because I posed that question about Pippen, because I finally found the video. I'm gonna drop the video on my channel this week. I was at a coaching seminar in North Carolina. Larry Bird was there, actually giving all the coaches a speech about valuable players. And he was the one that posed this question to all the coaches there. And it was interesting the way he broke it down, because he says he personally felt Jordan and Pippen were number 1 and number 2 throughout the 90s. He said they were the first and second best player. He said that's what he saw. That's what he felt in the moment. And then he broke down why he felt Scottie Pippen was the second best player in the 90s over guys like Hakeem, David Robinson, Karl Malone. And he was just really talking about how coaches and media fall in love with some of the running total numbers. There's so many things that happen in a basketball game that don't get counted that lead to winning basketball that Pippen did. And so it was actually him that posed the question and opened the door for me to just say, do we, and the overall premise was, do we undervalue Scottie Pippen? Like, when I hear Angry Old Hoops talk about Scottie Pippen, he just makes it seem like he was just a little sidekick, just collecting trophies. And it's just like, was he just a sidekick, or did he have a significant, a significant role? Did those championships, the 6 championships exist without him? And so it was Larry Bird that posed the question. It just, not me. I just thought it would be an interesting talking point. That's all.
As someone who on his own 5-on-5 teams knows he's not a Michael Jordan or doesn't play like a Michael Jordan, I'm not the leader of the team. I'm not the guy who's going to do the amazing drive to the hoop and then win it. I know that when my success came, it came because of my teammates who allowed me to excel. And that's why I look at a Scottie Pippen differently. I would be closer to a Scottie Pippen. And if I didn't have those teammates that were kicking ass, I wouldn't have had the success that came with being with them. That's the difference. Jordan's success came to teammates where he went. And you put words in my mouth again. I didn't say that he was not a contributor to the team. I am saying if he's not in the right place at the right time, there's a damn good chance you wouldn't have ever even known who he was.
So if I could, I wanted to chime in on that too. I'm going to look at it from 2 different angles. I believe if you don't have that Michael Jordan factor, we wouldn't have seen that best version of Pippen. The reason why, who was guarding Michael Jordan in practice every day, getting better? Scottie Pippen. So we put him on another team. Who's going to drive him to that success, right? Even Pippen said this on The Last Dance. He said Michael Jordan took him to the side and was able to mentor him, elevate his game, speak life into him, and ultimately like played a significant role in the player that he became. Because again, Pippen has to also go out there and execute. But when you're going against a guy who is considered the greatest player ever, best player by far in the 90s, well, you only got two options. I'm gonna take a role from pickup game. When we're shooting to see who gets first ball, sink or swim. So we know Pippen swam, right? But I would have to say, if we remove that Michael Jordan factor, well, who's going to maximize Pippen and get the best out of him the way MJ did? Because I don't see Pippen being pushed to that limit playing alongside Barkley, playing alongside of Hakeem, playing alongside of Karl Malone or David Robinson or Penny and Shaq. Like I don't see anybody else that would have been able to be like, okay, you guard me. Either you're gonna get better or hey, you're just gonna be a bust. I don't see it. So I would have to say, who's gonna bring that out of Pippen? That would be my only question. Not saying that anybody's wrong, but I would have to know who's gonna get the best out of him the way Jordan did, and then ultimately we seen what the results were.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say for me, because I have Pippen in my top 25, and why I don't have him in my top 10 is because as an individual, I don't think he matches up to a lot of the other guys on their great teams themselves. So the Bill Russells of the world, there's a lot of people that I find that anyone can put ahead of Pippen in respect to what I'm saying. Being a dominant player, MVP level player on your teams. But I think that Pippen is sometimes underappreciated for the value he had to the team. But to what AOH and Hoop God are saying, I don't know. And again, you can play this in both ways or a myriad of ways. But I don't think that Pippen, personally, from the outside looking in, would have had as much success if he was or if he was without Jordan. Or another great all-time player, but I think it was, in short, I thought they were great together. And when you start playing the what if game, who knows? But do I think he is top 10 worthy? Me personally, no. I don't think he did enough as an individual to show that, but I think he's a great team player, which is also extremely important because it's a team game. So, and I think he played his role well and was a great individual player too. I just don't think he's in the same echelon as the Kareems, the Russells, the Chamberlains.
All right. Do you think all of us, and I'm not just pointing any one person out, do you think we all undervalue players that attribute to winning basketball with things that don't have a running number to associate with it, like points per game or rebounds per game or assists per game or steals per game or things like that? Do you think we diminish those guys?
No.
Just slightly?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I would say no, because I've got Dennis Rodman like top 3 defender of all time. Like I could make a case for him being the best. He didn't have spectacular numbers. The reason why, like you said, there's no number to show that he's legitimately the only player that can guard all 5, like from point guard to center, where he's held Shaq scoreless for a quarter, which assisted the Bulls in beating them when he played for the Lakers and in that playoff game in '96. So no, Oh, go ahead.
No, I just want to answer real fast because mine's going to be short. I think the players on the team get the credit for the team's success. So I think they're appreciated, but I think but to your point, do people lean on just the number value and the statistics? I think so, especially across for a lot of things. But I think the people that are underappreciated are, if you want to say underappreciated, I think they're appreciated by the team success that they have. Because you can be a great team player, not have a lot of numbers, and then never have success. So then, you can just blanket statement say, well, they're in the NBA, they're just great players. And I think that's appreciative enough. But I think once you start talking about the greatest of all time, the greatest teams, the greatest players, The one thing that I have issue with is when you say that 30 points per game meant 30 points per game in two different eras. So 30 points per game in 1940 when they're pre-shot clock is a lot different than 30 points per game now.
Way,
So it's those sorts of things. When you just look at it face value, that's things that I personally think people should look a little bit more in depth about. But back to your original question again, I'll just sum it up here. I don't think they don't appreciate them, but I do think that people that I think that, to your respect, if you're just, or actually, I'm not entirely sure exactly what you're trying to say, to be fair. If you're just saying like the third or fourth guy on the team as a scorer or something, is he being appreciated because of his numbers? I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to say to bring it back.
My argument was because I think I was hearing a couple people say Scottie Pippen never did it on his own, and that question was actually posed to Larry Bird at the seminar. And he said, if you give any great player 2 years to win a championship, most of them won't win a championship in their prime. I mean, because I don't really count the Houston and Portland years when Pippen was past his prime and hurt. He only had 2 years in his prime. Hakeem was getting swept. If you give him 2 years, he had a ton of downfalls in the playoffs before he ultimately broke through. And Jordan had a ton of downfalls before he ultimately broke through. And all great players. So Pippen, in just the 1.5 years of being able to lead the team by himself, is that enough time? That's not a career's worth of time like Dirk had or Hakeem had to go get that championship as the number one guy. And so I think that I don't know if that's a fair argument for Scottie Pippen to say that he didn't do it on his own. I don't think he had enough time.
Well, to give Hakeem a little bit of fairness, Ralph Sampson went down with those degenerative knee injuries, because we remember when Hakeem got to the Rockets, I don't even think they made the playoffs. They became playoff team, and then his sophomore season, they were in the finals, knocked out the Magic. I mean, not the Magic, my bad. The Lakers with Magic, Kareem, and Worthy, and then ultimately lost to Bird Celtics in 6. So with the Hakeem factor, we would also have to factor in the Ralph Sampson aspect, because I don't believe they would have been suffering like that. But I mean, hey, injuries, that's a part of the game.
With Hakeem, where is, and I rarely hear Hakeem get penalized for this as a teammate, as you know, he was like some of the things he did internally with the team that cost them chemistry, the faking of the injuries, getting suspended. I mean, some of those years I felt like he shot himself in the foot, and it had nothing to do with lack of talent. It was just him kind of shelling up, quitting on the team. Those are the things that people don't talk about with Hakeem. He got suspended twice for faking injuries, right? He didn't like the team organization because he felt like he was getting underpaid. Not to take down Hakeem, but these are some of the things he had to overcome to get to that championship. When he became a Muslim and he kind of changed his life, he became a better teammate. And then we saw them break through. So I think with Scottie Pippen, like you talked about, the moment where he kind of had that down moment where he quit on his team, if you have a career's worth of time to recollect on those mistakes and then bounce back, maybe you can overcome it. I just think 1.5 years of time just wasn't enough to say Scottie Pippen couldn't do it on his own.
Hey, FYF, I got a question. Now that you said it about Hakeem Olajuwon, do you think that played a part in the Rockets getting swept after winning the championship in '96?
Yes, 100%. He was disgruntled. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be traded. He faked injuries. The league had to intervene. They had to suspend him twice for it. Vernon Maxwell, I mean, his teammates told horror stories about him before he turned.
Before they won the chip, about his injuries?
This is before he won the chip. Are you talking about after 95?
No. I was saying, did you think that played a part in them getting swept in 96?
After 95, I just think they lost too much. The talent gap. They were already struggling in that last championship. They had to get Clyde. So, they were fortunate to win that last one in 95. And I don't care if they would have got to the finals. They weren't going to beat the 96 Bulls. They would have got swept anyway. They probably would have just got swept in the NBA finals, even if they would have made it.
So
I don't know, man. I don't think they would have got swept in the finals. I think they would have lost maybe 5 to 6 games, but not a sweep. Not the Rockets, man.
I gotta push back. I gotta push back on the injury thing. Now, I did a little bit of research on that, and Hakeem had made a statement saying that it was the organization trying to say that he was being disgruntled or whatever it was. Like they were trying to get away from the injury, and he had like verifiable information showing that he was injured. Because if I'm not mistaken, I know he played with that long leg sleeve on in one of his seasons. So I don't believe the man had a motive to fake an injury, but I do know there was some turmoil going on within him in the front office because he felt like they weren't giving him adequate help. But then that's when I believe it was the year before they went on a title run. They drafted Robert Horry, and then the next year they drafted Sam Cassell, and then that's when they ultimately went on the run in the 93-94 season. So you're right about the turmoil, but I don't think it was about him faking an injury. It was like he felt like they were lying and trying to misconstrue the reason why he wasn't playing. When I read that article about that,
he got suspended twice. That's all. This is why he got suspended. You can believe who you want, but this is Hakeem, and we take the stories and as we want. I believe there's some things truths on both sides probably, but
if you don't mind, which one of his teammates believed he was faking? Just so I can go look.
It wasn't his teammates; it's the league. He got suspended, not his teammates. The organization believed he was faking it. But they cleared him to play, so he got suspended twice for faking it.
But none of his teammates, though. Just to be clear,
I don't know what his teammates said. I'm just referring to what the league decided and what his team decided.
Okay.
Hey, DA, when you look it up, man, make sure you see make sure you find out if Rudy Tomjanovich believed he was faking too.
Yeah. That's
Rudy
see
there?
what
Rudy was there.
Yeah, Rudy.
No. I'll just ask my guy.
Yeah, Rudy might not have been there, but yeah, like I try to go back and look and see what the players and teammates are saying versus what the front office and organization, and then that'll give me a more like accurate conclusion to come to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I think I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go to the beach today for Father's Day.
Hey, man, you just throwing that in our face like, okay, cool. We ain't got a beach. Like, man.
It's only like 5 minutes away, no big deal. But no, I got to get some beach stuff together. I know, Hoop God, you're a father. Are you a father, Lamont? Or
no, not me. No.
Are you a father, Timeless Youth? Or
unfortunately, no, I'm not, man. But hey, I salute all fathers, man.
Yes, sir. Happy Father's Day to y'all, man.
All I say is, hey, don't rush yourselves into it because I'm telling you, it's a full-time job that you never get any off days.
Yeah.
Hey, so I've heard, man. I know.
Wouldn't trade it for the world, though.
Yeah, I've talked to guys who have more than one daughter. They said, man, don't have kids, man.
No, it's not that bad, man. It's actually a great thing. I ain't gonna lie, it's a great thing.
Yeah. Well, happy Father's Day to everyone that's in the live chat as well. Thank you for participating. The super chats to AOH earlier were great as well. Come check out these guys' channels as well. Hoop God, I know he's got a TikTok channel, and then check out his channel at the Juan Sanders. They got FYF Sports here. Go check out his channel. And then Timeless Youth, I don't know if you have anything, but
yeah, I have a TikTok. It's Timeless Youth as well.
Yeah, we working on something, man. We're trying to get all the kinks out, and then we're gonna start broadcasting.
Nice. But yeah, thanks again, everyone. And then shout out to Angry Old Hoops that was on here earlier. Alessandro, who was going deep in the MJFB Summer Debate League as well. It looks like he's going to have a win over Robin. He has a win over me. Bob Cousy's greater than Larry Bird, but that's besides the point. Anyway,
hey, real quick, hey yo, FYF, let me know whenever you available, man. I would like to have a more in-depth discussion on the whole Hakeem thing.
We can. Oh, I mean, hey, I got plenty of controversial videos on Hakeem. A lot of people hate me for it, man, but it is what it is. Man.
Yeah, I know that's a term I don't live by. Like I know other people do, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, hate is kind of like.
I'll put my email in the private chat for you.
Gotcha.
And then you can just hit me up. But because I go live sporadically, so you never know when I'm gonna be live.
Yeah, I checked out the one you had with Gilbert and I believe Dreamers Pro. That was entertaining. I didn't get to watch it all, but I watched a good amount of it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I'm also known as the Hakeem critic here as well. I got blasted for it the other week.
Oh man, yeah. Well, we're in a small. We're it's a small group of us. A lot of people don't like the Hakeem slander, so
Yeah, I
especially
still
when you
think
say Pippin's over Hakeem.
when you pick, I don't have Pippen over Hakeem, but I got I think I have him like number 17. I think when I made this list, but I don't know. But still, I don't think he's sniffs the top 10. But I digress. I gotta go and
No way.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all.
All right, gentlemen, man. Y'all take
Michael
it
Jordan fans are the best.
he did it first. No. All right.
All right, y'all.